The Legend of Korra is a video game based on the hit animated series released in 2014 by Platinum Games, the developer of popular titles Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. The Korra series takes place 70 years after the end of its prequel, with the main protagonist as the reincarnation of what is known as the Avatar. The Avatar has the ability to bend all four elements, air, water, earth, and fire, while others in that world are restricted to either one or no element. The term bending means physical manipulation of the element by means of performing various martial art moves. My gut reaction upon playing this game, a very first impression was, oh no, this is going to be a button mashing disaster, isn't it? I was happy to learn that there is more to the gameplay than that. It hosts a bit more difficulty than I initially thought. While the player will find themselves smashing on the mouse or controller, that's right, I played this game on a mouse and keyboard, even though it warned me not to, frequently, it's controlled by use of locking on, switching elements to best suit the situation, earthbending for close range, waterbending for distance. And a concept I quite like. The concept is a chi meter, which is a quickly depleting gauge that must be filled back up by holding down the attack button to have access to Korra's stronger attacks. This is quite nice in that it adds variety to the fighting sequences. In between letting out a barrage of firebending attacks in quick succession, the player must decide when it's the right time to leave Korra momentarily vulnerable to be more effective in combat. Speaking of letting out attacks, you'll be doing that a lot as the majority of the game is seen fighting Korra's way through hordes of enemies. While this can get a bit monotonous at times, the fights are actually quite difficult. Every new enemy Korra faces, especially the boss battles, will probably give any new player trouble. That's not necessarily a bad thing and makes shopping for healing items a necessity. Perhaps I was a bit impatient at times, but the bosses with large health meters that require an endurance run to defeat proved to be very challenging. It was also a good move on the developers to have Korra unlock her ability to access the elements one at a time, to teach the player how to effectively use each of them. Other than physical offensive attacks, there are a few ways to defend Korra from enemy attacks. The most used will be the dodge key, which causes Korra to quickly jump out of the way and is very useful for avoidance and letting an enemy get the upper hand. There is also the counter ability, which proves to be a necessity in early chapters but becomes less useful as the player progresses. Pressing this right before a projectile hits Korra will result in her deflecting it right back where it came from. This is introduced in one battle where it is cleverly integrated to become a necessity to use, and required exclusively to unlock earthbending in order to effectively defeat this boss. The other ways countering attacks are used are by a series of quick-time events indicating what key or button the player needs to press. Successfully pull enough off and Korra will knock back the enemy. There's even power-ups called talismans, and one gives Korra the chance of knocking back even if the player fails the sequence. Talismen provide more depth to the combat, making for different abilities at the cost of others. These can all be purchased using spirit energy found by platforming segments and after defeating enemies. The game's story takes place between the second and third season and expands a bit on various aspects to bridge the seasons together. I don't know if it does a well enough job making it easy for players who have never watched the show though, even with as shallow and short as the story is. There are various references between in-game dialogue and the items Korra gets, making me feel that the game was made solely for those who are a fan of the show. With that said, I do appreciate the nods to the lore of the Avatar universe, and there are a few obscure ones. This includes the Air Nomad shaving tool gifted to Tenzin in Season 2 of Korra. One reference I found rather clever being the cabbage, which was a recurring joke in the original series, having kids destroy the poor man's carriage. It doesn't end there, however, as this is no random cabbage. It features what appears to be a face, and this is actually a nod to an episode of The Last Airbender, where in a few frames, the cabbage Katara picks up has formed lines that resemble her grandmother. Others include a pentapus, from the episode where the kids pretend they're diseased and infectious to escort captured villagers out of the city by suctioning the animal on their face and then removing it to show spots. The items are gifted to players after opening treasure chests and completing missions based on speed and what difficulty the game is set to. There is also an ultimate item to obtain after defeating the final boss with the best ranking, but I'll leave that a secret. I like the little items and it just makes any fan of the show feel good to pick these items up. I dislike how some of them are locked to different difficulty levels because I don't have a strong desire to play through the game again, especially in a lower setting. I can understand why they do this, but I won't have access to all the unique jokes and throwbacks that are in the item descriptions. All in all, I enjoyed many of what the game had to offer. There's just not that much there. There is a threat the player is left clueless about, other than he likes to laugh and send hordes of mooks flying your way, and that he has access to all of Amon's army in addition to control over corrupted spirits. It's fairly straightforward in that Cora unlocks elements one at a time. There's a few segments where Cora runs on her polar bear dog Naga. Then in chapters 7 and 8, the villain finally reveals who he is and what his intentions are. There are hardly any story elements in the first 6 chapters other than Cora is making her way to where the final battle will take place. All cutscenes are usually just more enemies surrounding the player, and there's hardly any character interaction at all. This makes the game feel slightly disconnected, as the show, by comparison, has beautiful writing that could easily made its way into the game through character dialogue. There are some witty remarks from Cora and a few noteworthy lines given by the main antagonist, but it's overshadowed by the same enemy stating they will destroy you. With that said, for what it is, the game is an enjoyable time waster. I really enjoyed the game's atmosphere and music, which features locations and tracks from within the television show. The art style can be beautiful at times, minus character textures during actual gameplay segments. I also like some of the fast-paced portions of the game spent riding Naga with, as they require fast decision making and heightened reflexes, although dying many times because you didn't see that wall coming can be frustrating. I will mention a very unique and memorable boss encounter fought entirely on Naga's back. Another negative aspect of this game, though, includes watching the same cutscenes of enemies and boss characters introducing themselves. It can get annoying quickly, especially if you died as many times as I did during the playthrough of my game. I did appreciate the variety in the fighting sequences, but I feel that's a requirement if the majority of the game is going to be spent doing it. Overall, I feel this game has potential. It shows signs of a good game, but it's not something I could recommend to anyone but a dedicated Cora fan. But I do recommend it for a fan of the show, because the last 2 chapters make the story worth investing time into. The revelation of who the main baddie is was very interesting to me. I just wish it didn't take so long for unique story elements to make its way into fruition. This could have been established with more personalized boss battles rather than a voiceless piece of mech with no purpose other than to be destroyed for progression. The choice to make the main antagonist his own character rather than an established one in the show was a brilliant choice. It would make me more invested into the story to have more than one villain with a personality, however. This game is something a fan of the show can wait on. If you're passionate about the lore of the Avatar universe and are curious about new canonical information, the final fight may redeem this game's story elements. I recommend waiting until the game is on sale, as I did, to pick it up though, because while it's fairly long, about 6 hours, it's mostly spent in lengthy boss battles. There's a lot more that could have been done with this title, and I can see how others were disappointed, but it's an okay experience for what it is. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe if you haven't, as it really helps the growth of myself and this channel. I do have fond memories of a certain other Avatar game, so I may revisit the franchise in the future. I'm a huge Korra and The Last Airbender fan, so if you have any favorite moments in the Avatar video game, or the television show you'd like to share with me, please do in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.